Mass Effect is a series of sci-fi RPGs with third-person shooter elements, developed by Canadian company Bioware. You play as Commander Shepard, whose mission it is to save the galaxy from the looming threat of the Reapers. The series, particularly the second game, has received universal acclaim, especially for its use of video games as a storytelling medium. In this episode, we'll be examining interactive narratives in Mass Effect 3.
I'm Erica. I'm a senior architect major at Carnegie Mellon, and I'm going to the School of Visual Arts in the fall for my MFA. I like drawing illustrations. That is my thing. I really like illustrations.
I'm Connie. I am a senior art major at Carnegie Mellon. I watch a lot of bad sci-fi, and I read a lot of bad sci-fi. And then I draw a lot of pictures based on the bad sci-fi that I have watched.
Art is finding narrative symmetry in shifting paradigms. Like science fiction, art can be a metaphor with which we tell stories about the human condition.
Human condition.
Human condition.
Okay, I think it's like something that is composed.
It's very deliberate.
It's a deliberate composition in response to something or to relay something.
I think games can be art. It is a valid medium with which to create art.
Yeah. Sometimes you forget that like a lot of energy goes into making games. It's because there's a lot of like designing, storyboarding, and just like making sure that everything is like perfect. A lot of times it's just like shoved aside as like, oh, it's just a game, but like a lot of people worked on it.
Agreed. Once we give
Look
a
at that
report to High
rule of
Command, they'll
thirds,
stop
though.
wasting lives here.
Even the camera, like while you're playing, is rule of thirds.
Yeah, it is. Look at that. Right over your shoulder.
Oh, is this one
Oh,
starting?
hey, look at this creepy, spooky
Dun,
music.
dun, dun, dun,
Talk
about mood.
The ambient lighting's pretty low, so you only have your flashlight, which adds to how spooky it is. It's like all gross and dark. You can't see anything, and there are no enemies. That's spooky.
Oh wait, there's a corpse. Hear that scream?
Oh, there you go. Cinematics. Little slow pan.
Reapers. Looks like we know why the commando teams went silent.
Look at all the detail
This
on his
monastery
neck.
is out of the way.
Samara!
Samara!
Oh, more screaming. Creepy screaming that you've been listening to for the last 10
shot.
minutes. All this cover, all this ammo, there must be some fighting that's gonna happen soon. Oh, there we go. So you can make Renegade or Paragon decisions, Paragon being more like
What is my weapon?
idealistic, whereas Renegade is more pragmatic, generally.
Okay. That's funny, because usually I hear like people describing Paragon and Renegade as like good and evil.
Not necessarily.
I mean, like later, like Paragon Shep gets a little too like he's willing to sacrifice more for the greater good, I guess.
Yeah.
As soon as I was
Whereas
able,
like Renegade, like the idea is like you're like
Shepard,
willing to do whatever is
this is
necessary
Valere,
to save the galaxy, I
youngest.
guess. The main thing about this game is that your actions have consequences. It's like people die and they stay dead depending on what options you take. Like it affects the outcome of different sort of events. So it's like you have this kind of agency to shape the world that the player inhabits. One thing I can say about Bioware games is that there's definitely
Is your weapon loadout?
gameplay and story segregation. They get better at integrating the fighting in the story as the games progress, I would say. I'm gonna say up until the last like 3 minutes of the game, it's about making choices and saving the galaxy.
And then everything changed when the
And
fire
then
mission
everything
attacked.
changed. Yeah, everything changed. A lot of it's like about making sort of sometimes difficult, like some choices are more like personal preference. Like, do you want to like be more diplomatic and ask someone why they're there, like ask someone for help, or you want to just point your gun at them and like make them help you? And then occasionally you'll have to make sort of like just choices that have very different outcomes and kind of have to live with those consequences. And like it kind of builds on itself because all your choices carry over from each game, so it kind of really makes it feel like the world is like something that you've created.
Another dead commando. Was she holding off Reapers or was she left behind?
Commandos work as teams. She would have volunteered to guard this point.
Hope she took some down before she died.
Wow, Garrus.
And
Jerk.
like, so some of your squad mates are more grim than others.
Oh yeah, that's the other thing. Like your actions affect your squad mates.
That too, yes. Being able to affect individuals just definitely offers a more personal sort of feeling, because like I think a lot of games you're generally you're expected to be like, you know, you're the hero, you can like change all these big events, but like being able to do more personal events definitely offers a more personal sort of experience. You can make peace between the Geth and the Quarians, but you can also make Joker and Edie date each other. So, I mean, in both senses, you are improving organic and synthetic relations, but, like, you know, the impact's a little different.
Oh, this part.
Oh. So much cinematography, though. It's very film, very cinematic, the way they do the cutscenes. It's also, like, super high contrast, like a movie.
But
Why did she do that?
Oh!
probably duck or something.
Yeah,
Kick the arrow out.
Yeah. He's like calmly standing there, waiting for you to trigger the cutscene.
It's too late for me. There are hundreds coming. Just go!
Move!
No!
This dramatic music.
I love you.
There you go. To sacrifice yourself for the ones you love. Oh god, they're so horrible. Oh god, it's horrible. Alien.
Kiss of death.
Oh, dead man.
I'm tearing up because I'm gross. Oh!
In the first game, it's a pretty straight space opera, like straightforward hero's journey. Like you go, you collect some friends, and then you defeat the bad guy, and then you're like hailed as a hero. And then by the third game, like you're a hero, but like everything's kind of like falling apart, and like there's like throughout the game there's like obvious like points where it becomes obvious that the main character has like some PTSD, and like there's like cracks in the hero veneer. Yeah, you're more important as a figurehead than as a person. But like the game doesn't hide the fact that like all this is kind of taking a toll on the person. But the nice thing about this game is that you can actually kill your enemies. Is there a game where you can't kind of play your agency?
What scene is
There
this?
you are you flirting with me?
Oh Jesus!
If you have to ask, I'm clearly.
That's not. He just asked you how you were. Wait, look at his face though.
Yeah, so the problem with Caden is that he like aggressively hits on you if you're a female, which can be a little off-putting.
But it's funny because you could date him as a male in the third game.
Well, it's funny because he's like really like sort of like straight, sort of. He's like, oh, I'm a tough soldier sort of archetype, but I have a sensitive side. So it's like really like kind of like eye-rolly, like boring, like I don't care, this is so banal. And then you can choose to play Shepard as like this like super like alpha male jarhead, and so it's kind of fun to like make them be gay for each other in the third game, because you're kind of taking this like whole hyper masculine thing and like kind of be like, haha, they're gay.
Also, his voice is really like it really panders to like a certain audience because it's like really sultry and like
he's like, oh,
breathy. He's like, I like a challenge. You bet I'll see you around. Okay.
So I guess like the attraction of this is the fact that you get to take these ideas of masculinity and kind of like subvert them a bit. Which, I mean, you know,
Hey, look at
nice.
my Shepherd. He's such a
Look at that jar. Look at that.
This is the most default Shep you could play. Like
Well, yeah,
soldier, war hero, Shep,
Yeah.
basically.
You're generic. Oh. I'd say that you are given limits and parameters, but you are free to choose within those limits and parameters. So I think it's a collaborative thing between the game developers and the player. The developer is the artist, but also I kind of see like the experience of playing the game as like a sort of a unique thing. Like it's like how the way I see video games as an interactive art piece, I guess, and it's like kind of like the player is kind of like a performer within that.
I think it's really funny that how you like tend to accidentally romance people just by being nice to them.
Oh yeah, just by being nice to people, they'll be like, "I'm in love with you,"
and it's like, I don't know, it's interesting to think about like.
So like
that just being nice to someone translates into like I want to be romantically involved with you. People tend to roleplay while playing this game, so it's like people are like, oh, I want to play Renegade Shepherd, and then he's like, or he or she is kind of like a huge asshole if you play it like that, and you just like let all these people die and everything, and you're just kind of like, well, but I'm playing this character like in this way, so I want to be like, you know, accurate.
I don't see the player character as like my own personal like avatar, I guess. Yeah, I mean I think I play more as a character than as myself. There's obviously the main like sort of story element to the game where like there's all this stuff going on, but also like because of the mechanics of the video game itself, there are certain things that you would do in a video game that you wouldn't do like if this was like a more real life-esque story. Like, oh, I have to disarm this like bomb, but first let me run around everywhere and collect all this loot. Like obviously like if this were a novel or a movie, like that wouldn't happen. There's certain gameplay elements and mechanics that like you kind of accept because they're kind of like very much ingrained in the way video games are played and how they're designed. Even if they're like, they might be a bit incongruous if you think about them as being completely integrated with the story of what's going on.
Look, art, guys, art. Look at this.
Oh!
This is so
in the future, everything is chrome. Deliberate. Well, there's a lot of lens flare. Because they're trying to make it seem more like cinematic, you know. Lots of like a lot of the shots, like the tracking shots and like the big wide shots, are very like cinematic. So because they're trying to like I guess make this more like a film in some ways.
Hey Shepard, not bad, huh? The sushi place is serious, like
French guy at the door of a sushi restaurant.
I know.
Wow, why are you shooting up the restaurant, rude?
The fish!
Fish! Oh, jeez. Oh, right through the fish tank. Oh no, the fish!
Wait! Ow!
Ow! Ow! Ow! Ow! Ow! Ow! Ow! Ow! Ow! Ow! Ow!
Good thing you have all those like enhancements.
Biotics, yeah.
Not even biotics,
just like
enhancements.
Oh! Ow! 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 Ouch! Ouch! Ouch!
Oh yeah.
Whoosh.
Well, I mean, the three races, like a lot of one sci-fi trip with this definitely plays is like everyone is like this species has this one defining quality. Like, you know, the Solarians are scientists, the Asari are diplomats, and the Turians are military. Which is like very, very common in all sci-fi where like, you know, like this one planet is all ice and all the people on this planet like pasta.
Hey, they called me.
It's kind of a goofy example, but like, you know, Star Trek, you know, all the Vulcans are really logical and like all the Klingons are like, you know, all about their like honor.
That's interesting. Are there very many aliens that aren't like some facet of human?
There isn't, because we don't know anything about anything. We, like, all writers are human thus far that we have encountered.
This is
the...
Oh!
It's your boyfriend.
It's your boyfriend.
He's come to
Is it
rescue
always
you.
your love interest?
Yeah.
Unless you don't have one.
And then who is,
I guess it's like overcoming differences and like building strong relationships with people.
Yeah, like the last game is about networking.
Yeah, it's like networking.
Definitely like the relationship you have with your squad members, because you know, you had them for like so long, so you have such a like
history.
Yeah, intimate history of them, I guess. Also because sort of like the interactions of everyone is like such a strong point of the game instead of just like a random shooting game. Like because I do have these interactions with like all my like squad members that like I do feel like emotionally invested in them. And because you're playing with the same characters for like 3 games,
they grow. You get to grow with them.
I feel like Bioware sets up like certain ideals for you because of the way they planned each sort of decision you make. So there's like an ideal outcome for everything. Especially in the second game, like if you're being renegade, quote unquote, you're basically like letting whole species die off.
Yeah, science fiction definitely can get away with being more blatant and like moralistic just because it's like so far removed from reality. Everyone's like, haha, I'm being entertained. And then, you know, they like smash you in the face with like, you know,
it's like,
what does it mean to be human?
Because they basically project like current social issues onto like fake alien species.
Well, like when you can like do all like tackle these sort of like really hard ethical questions in the hypothetical, you're able to explore them like very fully because you're not sort of, there's not as many sort of social sort of taboos or restrictions on like asking these questions.
It's interesting to see how like back in 2007 when the first Mass Effect game came out, like how things were seen as unacceptable, like sort of the sex scene you have with Shayera. Like everyone sort of threw a fit about that because they were like, oh, this is so like awful, like how dare you do this. And now it's like 2015 and like
there's a lot of different sort of queer relationships and queer characters.
Yeah.
It's like more okay now to make a video game with that than it was in 2007.
The Mass Effect 3 ending.
Okay, so
which color do you like? So a lot of it was that fans felt like it took away a lot of your agency to see that all the choices they made over the past 2 games had no effect on the final gameplay.
So like my problem with it mostly is that it's a complete non sequitur to like a lot of what I feel like the main themes of the game have been. Mass Effect
has artistic qualities to it.
Yes. There's definitely artistry to like the writing and like the deliberate sort of execution of a lot of different things.
I think you can critique it as an art piece, but that doesn't necessarily make it art. You can critique anything as an art piece. My shoe could be critiqued as an art piece. I mean, personally, I enjoyed it for what it is.
Oh yeah, no.
There are certainly like aesthetic aspects of it that I took out of it and I enjoyed. But like, I think that for me, it's the extent of its art.
As a whole, it is art, but I don't know if it's like very good art.
It's like Paragon Renegade, I don't know.
I think Mass Effect is art given the definition that we have sort of decided on.
Art.
Hello critters, thanks for watching.
What did you think of this episode?
What do you think the major trade-offs are between large companies making video games and small companies making video games?
Feel free to share your thoughts and ask us questions in the comments.
If you'd like to learn more about what we talked about in this episode, there are some helpful links down below.
Share, like, and subscribe if you like what you're seeing.
See you next time!